Hey guys, well, this video is going to be a little bit of a sad one because it's kind of a sad time here, well, not here, but in the wrestling world because Lanny Poffo has passed away. Now, Lanny Poffo, also known as the Genius, I'm really sad right now because I really loved the Genius. I really loved that character. I'm not going to sit here and talk about his whole career and early on, whatever, because I when he was leaping Lanny Poffo and he was in the ring with his little mustache and throwing frisbees out to the audience, really wasn't watching wrestling then. And the only memories I have of him then was later on in life going back and watching those matches. And they were really good, and Lanny was really athletic. He was one of the first guys ever I saw do a moonsault off the top rope, and so he was really athletic. But I want to talk about the Genius. Now, the Genius, man, he was such a great heel. I mean, the way, like, before a match, he'd be in and he would kind of egg on his opponent, and he would recite poetry before the match about his opponent. And then, like, once the match got underway, he would kind of prance around the ring, and he would put his leg up on the top turnbuckle and pull his knee pad up, and then he would kind of prance around the ring, and he would do like somersaults and cartwheels and stuff. And man, he could sell an atomic drop like nobody's business. I mean, nobody sold an atomic drop like the Genius. The only guy that maybe came close was the Honky Tonk Man, who also really sold the heck out of an atomic drop. But man, the Genius was awesome. He was fun to watch, not only just because he was a heel, and so as a kid watching him, I really loved watching people just beat the crap out of him. But I remember specifically he had a Royal Rumble match with Brutus the Barber Beefcake. And Brutus, won the match, but during the match, towards the end, he had the Genius asleep, but then he was cutting his hair. And then immediately after the match, Mr. Perfect comes down and starts nailing Brutus Beefcake and sort of beats the crap out of Brutus the Barber Beefcake. So then Perfect and the Genius go backstage and they're doing an interview. And Mr. Perfect tells Brutus the Barber Beefcake, Beefcake, I'm tired of you every single time you put somebody to sleep. You think you can take an advantage. Well, the Genius happens to be a friend of mine. And you want to do that, that's what happens. So, and of course, Jesse the Body Ventura on commentary loved it. He's like, oh, yeah, this is what Brutus has coming to him for doing that to those guys. So as a heel and as a wrestler, he was really great, like I said. But then he became a manager, and he became the manager of the Beverly Brothers. The Genius was always kind of an intellectual type. He always walked around with the cap and gown on. He would carry around this metal scroll. I remember during a match where he would go outside the ring and he would do math equations on the scroll as if that had something to do with whether or not he could win or not. I don't know. But sometimes the metal scroll he would use as a weapon. I know Mr. Perfect used it as a weapon one time. And actually, the Genius actually has a win over Hulk Hogan. It was a main event, and the Genius got a count-out victory over Hogan, thanks to his buddy Mr. Perfect. Then I remember, because after that match, Mr. Perfect stole the WWF title belt, and then after the interview backstage, Mr. Perfect was smashing the belt with a hammer while they're interviewing him and the Genius. But then, like I said, the Genius became a manager of the Beverly Brothers. They were kind of like this intellectual team. They were kind of like an Ivy League team. They probably went to Harvard or something. I think that was kind of where they were built from, either Harvard or Princeton, one of these Ivy League schools. And I remember the tag team match that the Beverly Brothers did at the Royal Rumble against the Bushwhackers. And the Bushwhackers had this manager named Jameson. He was kind of the stupid, nerdy guy with glasses, and he had these loafers that were duct taped together. And a couple times during the match, the Genius would kind of slap Jameson around. And after the match, the Bushwhackers got a hold of the Genius and held him back. And Jameson was kind of winding up. He was going to punch him, but he ended up just kicking the Genius in the shin. So then the Genius kind of went away from the WWF. And then years later, as Lanny Poffo, he was involved with this independent match. And you can find it on YouTube, but it was against a guy named Hannibal. Hannibal's this independent wrestler, but he also does his own YouTube channel where he talks about wrestling-related news. And he also does shoot interviews. It's actually a pretty cool channel. You should check it out, Hannibal TV. But years ago, they were in this really small town in Canada. And it was this really small venue, but it was an independent wrestling show. And Hannibal had a match with Lanny Poffo. And he happened to have a documentary film crew that night that was filming. And so they were backstage filming as Lanny Poffo, he looked angry after the match. He finally got up and came backstage, and he confronted Hannibal. And he goes up to Hannibal, he starts slapping him a couple times. It looked like he was like really slapping him. And so Hannibal was like, what'd I do? What'd I do to make you mad this time? What happened? So then, Lanny slapped him again. So Hannibal took him down. And they started to really fight on the ground. And Hannibal was wrestling on the ground. So then, they exchanged insults and stuff. And Hannibal went into another room. And the Honky Tonk Man was there along with a bunch of other wrestlers. And man, it looked real. Like Hannibal really has heat with Lanny Poffo for some reason. And they never really explained exactly what he did during the match, but Lanny looked really angry with him. So then later on, they're all out in the hallway, and Lanny tells Hannibal, who's also the promoter of this particular event, Lanny tells Hannibal, I'm going home. I'm going home. I'm not going to be treated this way. And he also used some cuss words. But then Hannibal was like, look, no, don't go home. People have paid money to see you wrestle. You should make an appearance, because people paid the hard-earned money to watch you wrestle. But then Lanny's like, no, I'm going home. I'm not going to be treated this way. So then years later after that, Hannibal did this video where he revealed that whole incident was actually a work. I thought it was a real thing, and all the wrestlers there, they thought it was real. They thought that these two guys really had an issue, but Hannibal revealed that he had this idea. He came to Lanny and he said, what if you had this issue with me and you came backstage and you punched me? And then Lanny, I guess, told him, no, I don't want to punch you, but I'll slap you. But then Hannibal's like, no, you really should punch me because it will really sell the scene. But Lanny was like, no, Lanny wanted to be respectful and he didn't want to really hurt anybody. So he's like, no, I'll slap you. It'll still look good. And it did look good. I thought it was real. I thought this whole thing was a real thing. But apparently it was a work, and the only people privy to it was Hannibal, Lanny Poffo, and the Honky Tonk Man. So that was really fun. And so anyway, rest in peace, Lanny Poffo. I'm very sad to hear about it. My sincere condolences to your family, your friends, and your fans, which I'm one of them. And so sad times in the wrestling world. Lanny Poffo, gone, but not forgotten. Anyway, if you're new here, like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.